Greetings all. Blessings. All right, this is a interview process that you've seen in the past. This is about cosmic karma, how it works, and the effects, and little ins and outs. And we'll be connecting to the prime creator. So, so that's about it for that. So blessings all. I'll connect, and this might go for half an hour, maybe, or 45 minutes. So, all right, here we go. All right.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay, blessings.
Blessings.
Greetings.
Greetings.
Prime creator.
Welcome to
So,
Karma.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Just introduce myself. I'm Shama. So today I'm just helping Ivan to ask you a few questions regarding cause and effect, especially the karma part. We've got around 26 questions, which is quite a lot. I'm not sure how long would you stay, but let's see how it goes. If you want to leave early, that's fine. Just letting you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Creator. Some of my questions could be very controversial, so if you don't want to answer it, that's okay.
I will keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready? Shall we get started?
Oh, of course. Yes.
Thank you, Prime Creator.
Yes.
My first question is, what if someone has a good intention, but the actual act itself leads to a negative consequences? Will this trigger any karma? Like you mean good, but your action itself is actually quite negative. Would this trigger any karma?
A slight karma, and normally it will be cleared out in your lifetime. We do not have to repeat another lifetime. Usually it's minor, depending on what it is, because your intentions are good. So yes, sometimes you might feel it will feedback, but depending on what it is, it will be very slight. Depending on what it is, there could be anything.
Okay. What if it's such a big one? Say, if you mean to help someone in a good intention, but when you help that person, you accidentally kill that person. Will this cause
Kind of
any major karma, or it's just slightly minor karma?
slight. I would kind of figure that would be where you were going with that, which is quite common, unfortunately, but very common on this planet. And as for karma, it's mostly what usually it has to do with the individual, where they are usually blaming themselves constantly for it. That's not where the
Okay.
karmas come, but they bring that karma to themselves. With something like that, there is some, but so minor. But usually the remorse of that usually it can destroy individuals. So usually it's self-inflicted karma in that regard.
Really? Right.
Yes.
Thank you. My second question is, what if someone has a negative intention, but this person's act itself leads to a very positive consequences? For example, if someone try to break up couple away or family away, the intention is really bad, but accidentally this action itself may help them to be, more bounded. Would this trigger any karma?
Positive karma, yes. Even with negative karma, there's still they have a negative intention, I should say. Even with
Yeah.
that negative intention, but a positive outcome will
Yeah.
bring a positive outcome to them also. So
Oh, so
that is
that
where you get
triggers
your karma.
both.
It's more positive karma. Though. Yes, go ahead, please.
Right. Would they trigger any negative karma because the
Mhm.
negative intention? No?
No, unless they act on that good, like if they bring someone together and then they act on them negatively, then they
Oh,
get a negative karma.
I see.
But for the most
Um,
part, it is good actually for them. But that isn't
yeah.
always. Anyway, go ahead, please.
Thank you. What if someone just going back to that one, what if somebody have a very negative thought or intention or very evil mind, but these people just keep thinking about that, but without really act for it? Would this trigger any karma? Just pure
Oh,
intention.
what it
As
does is if yes, such as I wish to harm someone but never do it,
yeah.
it it does not help your energy at all. It does it does lower your vibration. So that is where you get your karma from. It does lower your vibration extremely. Such
Oh,
as so that is mostly where it does where the effects are. Such as for example, such as certain reptilian beings that do not care for humans. For
yeah.
example, they have these thoughts, but they know how to balance themselves where it's not too much negativity, but they do get self-inflicted negativity to a certain extent if they act on it. If they act
Okay.
on it.
I see.
But for most,
Well,
it does lower their vibration. They're more aware of it than humans are, as you can tell.
all right. So they know the karmic law, they know how to play around with it.
Exactly correct.
Okay.
And you will too. Humanity will too eventually. Yes, you will understand it.
Thank you. So basically, the first thing we need to do is think very positive, keep our intention to be very
Yes.
positive, so we can raise our vibration to attract good things.
Yes.
I,
It is just it is not just good to be good. It's just what do you wish in your environment? You can choose negative. You can choose. You have free will to do whatever you want. But if you wish for more positive, it's good to have more of a positive outlook instead of what you have, but what you can have. And the more positivity you are attracting the things that you want. We understand.
okay. Thank you. My next question is, what if somebody in a situation, but this person decided not to act, regardless whether it's a positive or negative? Say if you're an excellent swimmer and you saw a little boy was drowning, you're not helping him, but you are also not cause any harm further to him. Will this cause any karma?
Depends on the situation. There are different scenarios. There are some where you cannot help them.
Yeah,
If you help them, you might follow them. You might go in the same direction depending on the situation.
right.
Not necessarily. Just as you see a car accident, you're not there to save the world. They're all different scenarios. But if you're the only one, you see a child drowning,
Yeah.
and it is a safe place for you to. Yes, there will be a karma debt from that.
Oh, okay.
Slightly, there is. It's different for everyone, but there will be a slight karma effect from that. Yes.
I see. Thank you. What if somebody participated in a negative plan without any awareness?
Mhm.
Say somebody's bad, got a drug, but carries it all around the world, but that person does not even know that they're back on the drugs. Will this trigger any karma?
No, because this happens all the time, especially in your workforce business, as you can tell. Not all of
Yeah.
those are very positive. And no, you will not receive. You're there to feed yourself. You're not always aware of what is going on. Even if you were there aware, you're not always participating in it. You're there to feed yourself. You're not doing the negativities of there. Yes, you might be working for them, but you're technically going through it already by being there. So you are going through, not as I call it karma, but you are feeling the effects of their negativity, what they're putting on others to some degree. But that is all.
Okay. Right. What if you've been forced into a situation and you act because you've been forced into this situation? For example, self-defense. Will this trigger any karma? Like somebody tell you to, like someone try to attack you, but you try to self-defend yourself. You
No, you will
still
not have
so
any.
no. Okay.
If there, it's like this, there might be a slight depending on the situation, but for the most part, no, because you're in a situation you cannot control. You are in a situation of service to self, and someone else is imposing their will on you, and you have
Uh-huh.
no, there's nothing you can do there. So technically, you're already going through that karma situation as with being in that negative event, where you have to,
Oh,
like are forced to murder others,
yeah.
such as these gangs, and there are other scenarios. But there are certain situations, but no, you are not. You are going through it as you go through that event, but that is not necessarily karma. You will not have that in other lifetime, though. No. You might have the
Okay.
scars from that, yes, but that is through it. That has another. That's different, though.
I see. And also want to know, would any third party have any stand in a karmic debt? Say if party A agreed to be killed by party B. Well, it's very extreme, like, circumstance. There's a consent to do something and the other person accept it, but the whole scenario itself cannot be accepted by the whole collective consciousness. Will the third party like us are able to enforce some kind of karmic debt on that two person?
No, as I said, you are going through the same. Is like the previous question. You are in a situation that you cannot control.
I
So you're
see.
not necessarily going through the karmic debt. You're going through other intentions from others that are imposing their will on you. So no, you will not go through karmic debt. I don't see that. But there's
Okay.
always different scenarios.
Yeah. And I've got other scenarios like, what if sacrifice one person can save millions of lives?
Mm.
That seems like the outcome is relatively positive, but it's still, causing damage to one person.
Yes,
Would this, I would say that's will able to incur a karmic debt.
it will have a karmic debt. It's different degrees of it, but there will be, because you are ending a life. So yes, you will receive a karmatic debt, but also you'll be receiving much positivity also. So you will be slightly involved, but it's not. But still, your soul is living with that. So that is for you to dissolve. As for the healing, that's not always an easy part to heal within. Such as many soldiers in war, where they're at war
Mm-hmm.
just because they're to feed themselves, to take care, to save their countries as they are told. So even in those scenarios, they're not. They receive some karmic debt from that, but very little, because they are
Okay.
doing what they feel is right. So, and it's not necessarily, it is, they're not trying to be malicious, they're doing their job. So it has different levels of
Yeah.
debt there.
So from the information I've just gathered from you, the karmic debt, like the karmic things, almost always to do with the actual intention.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Yes, you are
you
correct.
mean good, it's sort of
Mm-hmm.
like, that sort of incur karma.
Yes.
Intention does matter, I see. What if somebody never did anything wrong, but this person really believes he or she is guilty of some kind of thing, even though that's a fantasy? Will this incur any karma? It's just
But they,
purely intention. This person thinks he or she may have a karma, but they never actually caused any action inside.
well, yes, that is conflict within the self that is causing this own. You can, your humanity does it all the time. You create your own karma. So yes, you are victimizing yourself. It happens a lot
Yeah.
here, as you can tell. So that is not from any of that. Is just from yourself with insecurity and and self love, lack of self love.
Okay. So even though, say, Joe Blow, this person, Joe Blow, never involved with the killing, just extreme case, but somehow he believes he's guilty of these consequences, even though he never participated in this.
Yes, that
Would
is
he
self
actually?
inflicted. Yes, that is self
Okay.
inflicted karma. That is not. That is one that is the soul must to cycle that type of information to forgive oneself, even if they had nothing to do with it. They still feel slightly responsible, which is common, especially the way as for nature is treated here on Earth. Many feel like they have a karmic debt because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's many different scenarios. It's different for everyone.
So there is a such thing called a self-inflicted karma.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I see.
And that
so who's
can be the worst one. That can be the worst one.
Because they won't let it
on.
go.
Exactly.
They just keep holding on.
Yes.
Ah.
Many put themselves, as you know, into a prison. And they don't want to ever come out. They do not love themselves. They don't feel like they deserve to be around anyone, or you understand. There's different types. It's from other lifetimes sometimes when they just feel unfulfilled from one life, and do they enter this one and feel the same grief they bring into this one. So they have trouble seeing themselves in a mirror. It is quite difficult, but it is part of the soul learning here.
Right. Okay. I want to know who's the actual enforcer of karma. Is that is that you as a prime creator, or our higher self, our soul, or the collective consciousness?
It is a combination of things. It is free will here. So with free will comes the energy of karma. It is to balance your society out. It's like if you do -1, you will receive it in some degree to yourself, depending. It is all part of a learning. You can't have one individual going mowing down other individuals and not receiving any feedback from that. It is part of the learning process of this planet. It is very difficult here. It has many layers, but it is part of the consciousness. It is part of much of the fabric of this creation too. It was always there. Let's put it that way. As this earth came to being, karma was always. Of course, you have it on other worlds. Every world has its own type of karma, and this one can be quite vicious, as it's only because many are inflicting it on themselves. So it is. It's just part of the fabric of creation. That's all.
The fabric of creation. So sorry, prime creator, I don't really get that part. So basically, our karma is enforced by combination of prime creator, our higher self, our soul, and the collective consciousness.
Yes, it is a. You can call it creation rules. Many worlds have this. It is already there.
I see.
Some don't have it. Some do. It is just there. It was there, part of this Earth's fabric, you could say.
Okay. But what if there's a conflict between the collective consciousness decision and the fabric of the one you just mentioned? For example, say in some parts of the Middle East, it's like their society agreed that it's okay to beat a woman or chop some thief's hand. It's like a collective consciousness that they actually think it's the right thing to do. But from the broader scope, from the planetary scope, we may think it's not the right thing to do. So I'm wondering, what if the prime creator thinks it's wrong, but the collective consciousness for that little group thinks it's the right thing to do? What if there's a conflict between the decision of karma? So who is going to enforce it?
Through spirit, through the Holy Spirit. Yes, that is very 3D, as you want to label it, in that area. But when you connect to spirit, spirit has different rules, and your spirit has to go through a certain cycle. And they all go through this karmic deck. They might not reincarnate in those lifetimes again. Most likely they do not. But their soul does go through a cycle of, that is their choice on this level of Earth. They have the power to enforce whatever. They have free will. But when they enter into spirit, even in their lifetimes, they receive karmic debts from that. They might not always see it, but it does come back to get them to a certain degree. Not exactly in those words, but it does. It's just the way it is. It's just the energy, how it it has different ways of operating. It might
Uh-huh.
just resurface to them in another lifetime. It might not always show itself there. It depends on the power of, yes, as you say, the consciousness of that area. Sometimes unable for any other consciousness to break through that, so they just
Yeah.
continue on, such as Africa and its situation, and parts of your America, etc. So yes, but
Right.
spirit world has a different way of dealing with things. Let's put it that way.
Okay, the spirit world. And who's going to measure the how much karma debt they're going to pay? Let me give you example. Say if I swear someone just a words like
Mm-hmm.
little mere insult, one person may just get upset, but the other person may have a be fully traumatized by it. So what I mean is the same person enforce same intention, same action, but may lead to a totally different consequences based on who's the actually the receiver. So for that instance, who is going to decide how much karma debt that person have to pay?
That goes into, as I said earlier, into spirit. Spirit, it's like it has its own cycle. It automatically triggers within these individuals already. It already has it's like it has a mind of its own already for karma. It's like energy, karmatic energy already has its own consciousness. It's already, but it's only for soul growth. It's just like anything else in your, such as love. Love has a passion. It is a passion that lives within the other side, and also karma lives with the other side also. It has you could say, a mind of its own. It's just a
Yeah.
way of energy. It just works its own way. It does not, it has its ways of
Okay,
working.
I see.
Even I can't even get involved. You could put it this way: it's none of my business. Because the energy goes in its own. Yes, it can get quite confusing. Some
Mm-hmm.
try to. There are councils on the other side that try to warn spirits as they enter of what might happen through karma. If they don't
Yep.
listen, or they do listen, they enter in this world and forget everything, which is common. And they do try to change karma energies. They try it all the time. So others, they feel like that's not fair to others, and that happens a lot on the other side. There's a lot of that, and it can be, depending on how many wish for it to be shifted. It can be shifted, but it has to be a majority. Let's put it that way. It can get quite confusing.
So could I say that in the broader scope, in different galaxies or different densities,
Mhm.
the way of how to pay back, or not the way, the karmic debt will be measured differently depending on which location or zoning area you are in this universe.
Yes, it's different because they have a different way of points of view and different. Everyone has their own version of everything.
Yeah, that's
It's,
very subjective towards what you think the
yes,
karma is.
exactly, exactly.
And well, Prime Creator, what if a lot of karmic things are very in a very gray area, which means it's always not very
Mm-hmm,
clear cut whether it's black and white?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How can the karmic things be carried? And as you mentioned from the spirit world, can you elaborate more about this spirit world? Is that in the higher density, a collective
Yes,
consciousness of us, or what
yes.
kind of spirit world is it?
What happens? It can happen as for karma being altered depending on the situation. So it does happen often where
Mm,
many are, and you can take, it's just, you can deal with it differently in little ways or in larger ways. And also, that is true, many of the beings that are going through it, that have a karmatic debt, they can also choose how they're going to deal with it. Also, it is up to them
yeah.
how they want to go through that process. But they can
When you,
also argue it also, and they can also argue it also, what is
of
happening.
course. And when you say the different spirit world who decide how much karma are going to pay, then it's like and how the karma is imposed in the autopilot way, sort of. And what kind of spirit world is it? Is that like a higher density? I'm just going back to that one because you
Oh
mentioned
yes.
about the spirit world.
Oh yes, is your other side, your heaven. But there are many councils in heaven that deal with karma only, and you can speak to them
Yeah.
anytime you want. And it is
Yes.
a
Yeah.
council of karma. We don't really have a word, but you can call it that.
Like a karmic court, something like that. I've been to that
You can
place many
call it
times.
that is just fine.
It's
And they
interesting. How to
are
get some restitution from them. It's really hard
yes,
to get something from them.
yes, they are very, but they are very wise, but hear everything, and they
Uh-huh.
are trying to be as fair as possible with everyone. It's not they're not judging anybody or anything like that. It's just they've been around for some time. But yeah, karma moves on its own, but there's a yes, karma court is in that they can move the vibration around also. And other
Right.
beings can get involved with it if they wish to. They feel like this is not fair, and you can. The more beings that get involved with it, feel like it's like your voting situation. Not that's not a bad example, but the more beings involved with it can alter it slightly. It all depends, and it's if they feel it's not fair or you understand
Uh-huh.
those situations.
Sure. And I want to learn something regarding the karmic core. I sort of put this in my last question, which we're almost there, is how can this be possible that sometimes in our Akashic record, certain negative beings actually able to put in a soul agreement that without your consent or intention? I found this is really amazing. They sort of
They
put in
know
here, say you have to do X, Y, Z, but without your consent, like treat you like little slave.
yes, they manipulate the energies around you. They are well understand many that go through this have it already in their contract to deal with these beings, not always, but most of the time they have in their contract to deal with them. But that is everyone has free will, so these beings have free will also, and they can inflict change if they know what they're doing. So yes, it does, and they can go unseen, and as a part of your Earth, your world test, your universe test. It is quite yes, it makes things much more complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's really hard to get a restitution from the karmic court, I realize, for
Mm-hmm.
what I suffered. But it's a personal thing. But I want to get to the next one. What if someone caused a karmic debt in a specific situation? Does this person have to pay back that karmic debt in the precise way? For example, if it's a
No.
domestic violence, will this
Mm-hmm.
person must pay back this karmic debt in that particular way by go through this, or this person can pay back by a different way, like lack of money or illness or
Yeah.
like a different form? Would that be okay, or must be paid back in that particular way?
Some choose in the same way because sometimes they need to warn because they've done this over and over again of domestic disputes. It's time for them to see it from another angle. It's like I'm trying to learn, but I'm not learning anything, so I must be in that position where I get involved. But that's not always the case. Many choose health issues. Notice how many have health issues. It's not all because of your earth and its poisons in your air. A lot of it has to do with many chose. It's like if they're going to go through karmic difficulties, they're going to use health as a way to repay back. And many do choose. And you notice many do have many health elements. Not saying all of them have that karma, but many do. As they can't breathe
Okay.
well and they have asthma, they choose different types of things to go through. Some do choose
Yeah.
to have no limb. They choose different things. Money is another
Oh,
problem. So
sure.
yes,
Okay, so it's possible to choose a different way or method to pay back that particular karma.
and you can make it large or you can thin it out.
Yeah.
You can. There are ways of calming it down. Some ask for too much. They just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but it's everyone's different. But it
So you
is
can,
that
all right. Right. It's like a
yes,
paying credit card. You can choose how much you want to pay back your debt, right? You can pay
exactly.
$60 or $600 in one go.
Yes, it is. But you have that privilege, and you can argue also your side on the other side. You can say, I did not believe it. This is not my fault, and you guys are, and you can, it depends. You can argue your way out of it depending on the situation. Like you said, if it's not fair, like you say, it was like, I had this karmic debt, but it wasn't my fault. I was forced to murder this person, etc. I was in war. I was a soldier doing what I was told. Most of that is cleared out. Depending on the intentions. If some are going there just to mow people down, then you're going to have a lot of karmic debt. But you're just doing what you're told. It is unlikely, most likely that will be cleared. But you still have the scars of the situation of guilt.
Right.
But that's for you to clear out.
Okay, for the audience who are listening to this YouTube right now, what if they aware or unaware whether they got some kind of a karmic since they don't even know themselves, or somebody inserted into their Akashic record? Where should they go in order to appeal their case? When you see the karmic court, is there any specific location or council they can go to?
The karmic court would be efficient. They have karmic courts of all different species also, such as with your Syrians or Pleiadians. Even if you're on Earth, you can still go to different courts to put your
Even
case.
on Earth as well. Okay.
Yes, you can go to the Earth version. You can go to their version. Yes.
So how do we define which karmic court would be most appropriate to hear my case?
For you, it's best to go to all of them that you feel that you need to go to. I would go to a reptilian one. They seem to be, yes, trying to change your timeline, it seems. They seem to be getting in there and shifting you to another timeline. They seem to be doing that often. And they have been breaking the rules of your karmic rules.
Yeah.
And they are being dealt with at this time, but they seem to not care and continue to do so. That is what's going on.
I see. But the reptilians, well, no offense, even though some of them are quite nice, would that be okay to go to reptilian karmic court? Because I'm not sure if they would in favor of me or against me. Because reptilian seems like,
That would be what you go to the positive karmic court with them, so tell them to have positive intentions to connect to you. I do not want negativity involved. You can make your case with them without having a negative feedback from them. You got to be as kind as you can with them. They're not always fair sometimes, depending which reptilian race you connect to. But they will hear you out. But they may understand they are fair. It's the tricksters on the outside that are not. They're the ones that they can hear it. They do get involved with it because that's the way they work. So it's not the karmic court you're having an issue with to be worried about. It's the ones that are on the outside of it that are trying to manipulate your energy and your connection to them.
When you say the outside, which part are you referring to? Is it outside the beings or?
The beings outside of the reptilian heaven, if you want to call it that. They know how to. Well, your reptilians are on their own other side. They have their own rules. They have everything.
Yeah.
And there's reptilians that are at a higher density that are not always very friendly, can manipulate the transmission from your place to their direction. So basically, you might receive the wrong information. When you think you're making progress, they're tricksters. They're very good at it. They're mostly known for it. To clear that out is to just, when you go to connect to a reptilian karmic court, with any of them, is to surround it with lights, the angels, Archangel Michael, my energies, just to clear it out before you begin anything. Because anytime you feel anything negative, it's best to move back. But most of the time it'll be fine, but many go to these karmic courts and do not clear their energy out. Because I don't realize it gets really tricky when you connect to them.
Okay, what if I've got, what if somebody went to 3 different courts, karmic courts, and they got 3 different judgments, and the 2 judgments in favor of them, 1 judgment is against them? What should they do if there's a judgment conflicts between each other?
I would go back to them and plead your case again, and I would continue to do so. Eventually, If you're in the right of all this, it will be cleared out. I believe you will have your, it will have work in your favor. Some are hard to convince at times.
I see. Okay. I want to ask you about artificial intelligence. I heard that artificial intelligence is free from any karmic consequences. Is that true?
Not true. The soul that is in this AI, Android, they still go through it also. It is quite different than what others would deal with, but they do go through it also. They do. Whoever said that was, it's understandable why they would say that, but they go through it also. It's different, but they do go through it.
But I thought artificial intelligence does not have any soul. They just expanding in certain way.
Some, it depends. Most of them are souls within the machine. It goes in the machine, the soul in the machine, however you want to word it. But some are just programs created by others. And in that case, they don't have any, they're just doing what they're being told. And the one that's created it is going to receive the karma from that.
Karmic from that. What if the certain intelligent, like artificial intelligence is that sort of program is out of the control of their creator, that just keep expanding in a certain way? Will this emotionless results, so that kind of artificial intelligence receive any karma because it's just out of control?
It will. It develops a consciousness. To be out of control of its creator, it has a consciousness, so yes, it will. And normally those are younger souls.
Oh, okay. So if it's got own consciousness, that would be subject to karmic or some kind of reinforcement.
Yes.
Interesting. All right. I think that would sort of conclude my question for today regarding cause and effect and the karma. Last thing I want to know, your prime creator, what if people actually got hurt from somebody's behavior, let's say karma? What if there's an innocent party, being harmed by the other person's behavior? Would this person always receive some kind of spiritual payback?
Yes. The more they're causing harm to others, if they're not aware, if they're not intentionally doing it, they will not. But if they're intentionally doing it,
they will. So the innocent party will receive the payback.
Yes.
Like spiritual award or something like that.
Yes.
Restitution.
Yes. Oh yes, definitely. It was many that are mentally ill that cause harm to others. That is where you have your sketchy situation. So there's many situations here that are difficult to deal with. That we see on the other side constantly.
I see. Sorry, just last one. I've got one more.
Yes.
How come some beings are met in the higher densities? Well, they had quite a few incarnations on Earth before, but they are able to ascend to the higher norm without fully paying back their karmic debt. And they always say, "Oh, yeah, I have to go back pay my karmic debt." So my first question is, how can they actually postpone their karmic debt?
They extend it.
Would that be possible?
They can. It's possible. But problem is when they do that, eventually they're going to have to face it eventually, and it will be worse. The more you push it away, the bigger it gets. So it's better to clear it out. If you do it slightly, it is for the better. But the more you push it away, it does get worse. And they think they can
that would, right? Like credit card, if you don't pay, you will incur some kind of interest on top.
Exactly. It's the same part of your money system. Oh yes, the bankers will come and chase you down, or your government will come chase you down. Same thing.
All right. So eventually that would work, which means you cannot infinitely postpone your karmic debt. You have to pay back.
No, for the easiest to have it slimmed down, but some choose to get it over with. Some feel they need to go through the conflict of it. It is quite difficult, and some do not survive it and have to reincarnate again. It makes things very difficult here, but it is up to it's their choice.
So would that be fair to say that even in the higher norm, the higher density, the beings still got the karmic debts, even the fifth or sixth density?
Yes. They think they can manipulate it and make it go away, and that is not the case. And they end
But
up
when you look
on this planet.
okay. How about seventh or even eighth densities? Would that make any difference?
Does that make any difference? Yes, if they ignore it long enough, they will be. I would not say forced to go to a certain world, but sometimes it's like for you to clear out much of this, it's probably better to go to Earth. Is one of them to just get all this over with, so you don't have to be running away from it all the time. So there's many here, reptilian and different types of beings here right now. They're going through it. Many do not have any money, but either way is
Playback. Okay.
yes.
But when you look at our Earth cabal, those very secretive, like government, or
Oh
those
yes.
very negative beings,
Mm-hmm.
how can this be possible that they control our Earth for such a long time, did so many evil things, and they are still able to incarnating in different rulers' form without being punished? They seems able to keep postponing this. I've heard that they are using artificial intelligence to try to clear their karmic away. Is that true?
They are trying, but unsuccessful. And the reason it is part of the test of this now, every world at one point that is similar to this one has some sort of elite of negativity. They know how to manipulate society as you have here, and to keep. But they go through. Yes, they might have more knowledge than many people, at least, but they go through much conflict of being them. They go through more than see. They're not seen, but as for how they keep their power, they know how to manipulate time. They know how to manipulate societies, but it does come back to get at them. It's to be in those families is so difficult. It is. It drives many of them mad. Some of them do turn to violence, as you see in some of your news, and some know how to pay their way out of it, but they still have much conflict within. So it is. They go through their own karma. They might still, as you call, run your planet to some degree, but it is not easy to be in those families at all. It is hell on earth, you can say. Yes, they might have many material possessions, but many of them are terrified. So many of them aren't sure how long they're going to live. Yes, they might look beautiful, whatever it might be, but they know that their lifespan might not be very long if they do not follow what they're being told. So it's very difficult to be in their shoes.
I see.
They're
I see.
like spiritual magicians that know how to manipulate your society. And once your society becomes unmanipulated, they will no longer be in power. But yeah, your society has some time to go, as you can tell.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming today. That concludes my questions
Yes.
for today. Thank you so much.
Much love to you and
Much
all
love from Creator.
there in the world.
Thanks.
Well,
Welcome back. Welcome back.
thank you. All right. Okay, much love, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and catch you later.